Hello, my name is MarthaK, and I was assigned the honor to research and learn more about Dr. NinaAsher, who is a professor of English and education at the University of Minnesota. Dr. NinaAsher is an Indian-born U.S.-based scholar whose work has transcended to leading in the capacity of professor and chair at leading U.S.-based institutions, with a focus in global impacts to gender, women, and sexuality, with an emphasis in Asian American studies and education. She has published more than 30 articles and writings in various national and international, highly acclaimed journals, and has received recognition from prestigious programs such as the Fulbright program. In early life and as a child growing up in India, Nina recalls many stories shared with her by her mother, mainly with the theme of struggle, loss, resistance, and resilience under British colonial rule. One horrific story Nina recalls is one of British soldiers running children over in tanks and leaving them dead in the streets of Bombay. Imagine how a child processes that type of information and the impact it could have in forming knowledge and intellectual thought. Other stories her mother shared surround the formation of resistance and oppressive approaches to traditional customs in India, such as how her mother refused to wear her sari after being engaged and being termed the educated devil from her in-laws, as her mother attained a degree and was a kindergarten teacher before she was married. Thankfully, Nina's mother's narratives surrounding resistance to traditional expectations prompted Nina's path towards decolonizing texts of individual resistance and civil disobedience towards the freedom in knowing transformation can happen through education. And alas, her parents motivated Nina to pursue higher education, which forged her path to who she is today. Nina entered the University of Bombay and attained her Bachelor of Arts in Psychology and achieved her Master's of Arts in Social Work from Tata Institute. She then came to the United States and landed at Columbia University and pursued her studies in the School of Teaching and Curriculum. Here she attained her second Master's in Education and then entered the Doctor of Education and Curriculum and Teaching program. This is where Nina found her scholastic enlightenment in engaging in postcolonial theory, interdissertation research. Beyond that, she attained her doctorate at Columbia University. Nina was offered roles as professor at Louisiana State University, where she developed her scholarship in postcolonialism, feminism, critical perspectives on multiculturalism, and Asian American studies in relation to curriculum and education. Now Nina is a professor of English and education at the University of Minnesota and describes herself as a woman of academic color, an immigrant in the U.S., and a lesbian in a heterosexist society. In this tree, we see some of Nina's inspirations, which shaped her theoretical discourse towards critical feminist theory. She was exposed to Paulo Freire at an early age and looked to bell Hook's stance at challenging mainstream feminist perspectives, who describes theory as healing and which speaks to the head and heart, past and present, contemplation and transformation. For the theorists who inspired her, Nina states, "They have spoken to my head and my heart. It is both intellectual engagement and the personal commitment that has allowed me to integrate curriculum and pedagogy with research and scholarship." Nina's scholarship draws on postcolonial feminist, globalization, and critical multicultural discourses in relation to education. Her theoretical perspectives reveal her long-standing commitment to equity, justice, and the ongoing work of decolonization across different contexts. She examines the cultural, political, and societal forces of colonialism and how these forces continue to frame the discourse in the post-colonial world. Her goal is to continuously challenge dominant narratives to undo the colonial and dominant structures persisting in society and education today. Her passion to apply her research in language acquisition, teacher development, and using technologies to enhance instruction is also a basis in her scholarship. Colonialism is a global force which has contributed to the marginalization and subordination of all people and women throughout the world, and more so women of color. Postcolonial feminism is a component within feminist theory which offers critical perspectives to the limitations of feminism and seeks to address the intersections in gender, race, ethnicity, and colonialism in a post-colonial context. It critiques the Euro-dominant perspective in mainstream feminism since it offers more privilege to westernized experiences compared to those in the global South and East. Because we live in a globalized world, Nina stresses the need to be aware to the interconnections and interdependencies of a global society. Yes, globalization can offer advances in societies, but can also accentuate inequities and exploitation of women and their rights. There are arguments that feminist theory needs to be decolonized from the dominant Western feminist discourse, which Dr. NinaAsher emphasizes upon in her research. Dr. NinaAsher emphasizes the need for a continuous change in habits of thought as it remains critical for our transcendence of our endeavor towards equity and justice today. She also brings focus to how postcolonialism and globalization are linked, and how the postcolonial scene is not identical in all parts of the world, which is why educators need to understand how dominant forces can oppress individuals of all cultures through globalization. She recommends to question the identity of cultures and their impacts by globalization, and as educators, find the means to resist the recolonization of curriculum, teaching, teacher education, research, and discourse. She implies the need to enable the self to return to home, as a colonizer leaves home by choice to seek his fortune and power elsewhere, and the colonized under occupation suffer the loss of home. This implies the oppressed suffer the loss of self and their cultural identity, a loss of their history. She advocates for teachers to refrain from transmitting colonizing educational structures in the classroom because these structures have rooted themselves in curriculum derived from a Eurocentric colonialist standpoint, basically to change habits by the dominant discourse. Dr. NinaAsher emphasizes the need to persist in a change of habitual thought which will help shape educational discourse and practices in transnational contexts. My favorite work of Dr. NinaAsher is Beyond Dualisms, Interdependence and Possibilities in Education Today, which was published in 2019. She's an amazing educator with great perspective, and her scholarship manifests great and new thoughts. I suggest you look to some of her work if what I shared with you today has resonated with you. Thank you for your time and for watching this video.